Hello viewers, Marianne from Revealing Light Tarot. How are we all today? Wherever you are in the world when you're watching, a huge shout out to you. For a while now, I've been saying that I was going to look at China's astrological chart and pull some tarot on what we can expect from China. Of course, the US and China, there's been rumblings now for quite some time around this Cold War, which of course was ramped up in the Trumpian years, and the current president of the US, Joe Biden, is not backing away either from taking China on. In Australia, my own home country, of course, there is very much a what looks or appears like a Cold War going on between Australia and China. Many have said very foolish for Australia to poke the bear. I have said in the past that there are strong diplomatic channels to have used rather than really coming out with this aggression against China, which it just doesn't work with them. And when we look at the chart, we'll see why. They already have that wound around how they're perceived, and they want people to respect them. And of course, being aggressive is just showing in their eyes disrespect. It's a complicated astrological chart. Of course, many of us around the world are of the view that the COVID pandemic began as a result of a virus escaping, whether intentionally or not, escaping from a Wuhan lab. Of course, when we look at the chart, we'll see that it's quite possible, given the propensity in the chart for China's subterfuge, for underhanded tactics, for secrecy, for doing things that we can't see. But look, let's call up the chart and then we'll pull some cards. As I said, a very complex chart, and one in which contains a few surprises, I think, including for those that are in charge in China at the moment. Okay, let's get to the chart. And look, if you don't know anything about astrology, bear with me and look upon it as perhaps a learning, something to learn from. But also astrology ascribes, like the tarot, ascribes meaning to something. So a lot of the information that astrologers bring forward is putting meaning, whether that's karmic or universal meaning, around something. And when I look at a chart, I look at it like I would look at a painting. I get an overall kind of impression, and then I look at the parts, but no one part of a chart can be seen in isolation, because it is all about the sum of the parts. So what do we see when we first look at this chart? Well, immediately I'm drawn to this stellium here, or these planets and these asteroids in the 8th house. Of course, the 8th house here is death and rebirth. It is transformational stuff. It is the house that we can indicate that we will go through many reiterations, many deaths and rebirths. And of course, if you look in our lifetime, and of course, if you look at China's history, you've got just that. You had an empire crumbling, then you had a rebirth, you had a revolution, then you had the birth of the republic. But the thing that I see, Libra, of course, is justice, and it very much can be a karmic justice. Whenever I see Libra in the 8th house, or placements in the 8th house, I do see this almost karmic cycle. And when there's a karmic cycle, there are things to be learned. We see here a conjunction between Neptune. Neptune's that what looks like a Poseidon's fork thing, whatever that was called, triad, is it? Anyway, you know what I mean. We see Neptune conjunct here with Mercury. Now that tells us, it screams under stuff, underworld, underhand, can relate to things like spying, things that we can't see. So given in this chart, there's a huge push toward China's, I guess, power, the China as an entity, the republic, the people of China as one entity. You can see that there would be this underhanded underworld, you know, I don't know, it's just everything is below the surface. And Mercury is communications. So very much this this spying here, and because it's in the 8th house of death and rebirth, it could be like they're spying on their neighbors in order to take over the neighbors' territory, so to speak. And we look at China's relationships with Taiwan and Hong Kong, other parts of Asia, the Pacific, and of course even Australia in that mix as well. I'm not saying they're going to invade Australia, but I would assume that they would have spies here in this country. So we have Pallas Athena there as well. She is the associated with justice. So there's a huge theme of justice in China's chart. We could be forgiven for thinking that this is all about China taking back what they've lost, but it's also justice for China itself. What China does that is karmic will come back on them as well. So I'm thinking of the Uyghurs there, the ill treatment, the killing, I guess, of so-called perceived enemies. They just disappear. All of this will come back on them. Their treatment of women will come back on them. But I'll get to that in a minute. First of all, I want to go to the 7th house here, and we have Pluto. Pluto in conjunction with Mars. Mars being aggressive, Pluto being that deep, again, a clandestine type of feeling here. But Pluto is also about lessons of the soul. So when China is aggressive in this way, aggressive toward its neighbours, there is a price, a karmic price to pay for that. But taken on its own here, we see we are not surprised about, I mean, China has the largest army in the world. And we're not surprised about acts of aggression. Of course, it is in the 7th house, which in this instance is Leo. Leo, again, being a sun sign, passion, inspiration. There has been a huge, I guess, motivation for China to increase its, particularly its wealth and its territory, when we had the formation of the Republic of China. So China also, we've got this Saturn placement in Virgo, and so you'll see, and it is well aspected with Jupiter in Capricorn. So you can also see that China will build wealth, and how is its wealth built? It's built on hard work. It's built on the, I guess, the efforts of its population, of its people. And so it is reliant on that collective. But the karmic, and I guess the wounds here, the Chiron wounds, the karma here is that there will be consequences for, we see the moon here in the 1st house. The ascendant, of course, is Aquarius, which rules the, groups, networks, and the moon being women. So if there is, and we know China's population control policy was fairly, how can I say it, aggressively enforced, and that impacted on women. And we've also got this Uranus in Cancer in the 5th house. So any ill treatment is deeply felt, and you've got these tensions simmering always under the surface. So that's why Xi Jinping has to retain such an iron-fisted control over the population. The South Node and the North Node are interesting as well. North Node here being in the 2nd house, and it being Aries, which of course is the identity of the individual, seems to be at odds with its opposition here to Neptune. So in other words, China is not above spying on its own citizens, not above using those underhand tactics against its own citizens, and particularly with Lilith here also sitting so close to that North Node in Aries, we again come back to the ill treatment of women. And all of this, of course, simmering here in this 8th house of death and rebirth. So while I'm perhaps not seeing a revolution here at the moment, it won't surprise me if that, again, the iron fist of Xi Jinping and others like him retaining control, if there isn't another revolution. If it's, perhaps, is it in my lifetime? I don't know. But they mistreat their collective. They turn in on themselves at their peril. So we have Venus here in Scorpio. Venus in Scorpio is not an easy placement. I actually have it. It can sometimes mean that relationships can be misunderstood. And this is in their 9th house, which means, again, when they feel like they're being shamed, when they feel like they're being disrespected, when they feel like their what they consider their higher intentions are misunderstood, how will they react? Well, I go down to Jupiter in Capricorn. They will simply take their money away, the money that has been built on the efforts and the hard work of their citizens. So what is happening with the withdrawal of trade from Australia is not surprising. They do consider that they have been disrespected. And Australia, because they were a business partner, again, coming over to the partnership aspect of the chart, they reacted swiftly and they reacted aggressively in withdrawing those trading contracts. It's all now before the World Trade Organization. However, let's move on. We've got Uranus in the 5th house in Capricorn, and there are these oppositions here to Neptune conjunct Mercury and the Sun in Libra. There is squares, I should say. There is great potential for the Chinese people to turn on their leaders. Great potential if they feel like they are being, if underhand tactics, treachery is being visited on them. There is great potential for an uprising there amongst the Chinese people. By and large, they are obviously, with this Saturn in Virgo, very disciplined, down to the detail, hardworking. But it doesn't mean that they're going to take injustice visited upon them lying down. So Chiron in Chiron in Sagittarius. Chiron, of course, is the wounded healer in the 10th house. They are again prone to feeling like they are misjudged, that in their public image is somehow, again, Sagittarius also ruling the 9th house, which is interesting. They will get their nose out of joint, if you like, or if they feel like they are not if they haven't been respected, if they're saving face, if that's the right expression. Again, it's a deep wound within them. Now the North Node is in the 2nd house, which means their South Node is in the 8th house. So when their empires have fallen in the past, it's like a deep wound for them. So I think when I look at this chart, what do they have to translate or transform in this lifetime? I think it is around the way that they treat their own citizens, the way that they treat the women, the way they treat minorities within China. But it's also around their values, around wealth as well, and the collective and community. So Aries being the identity. I think they are striving in this iteration of this chart, this particular part of their blueprint, their national blueprint. They're striving to find their identity, but like most countries, by taking from the past lessons, healing the past wounds, and looking at where they want to be in the future. And so I think also, as I said, it's not unlikely, with so much here in this eighth house in Libra, their prosperity depends, with Sirius here, depends on this justice. And so where there's an injustice, they will pay a price for it in their abundance. So they may be this superpower. They may be able to invoke very swift retribution, financial and other retribution, but ultimately it will be the downfall of their empire. So anyone who is poking the bear, so to speak, needs to be very aware that they will, with this Mars conjunct Pluto in Leo, they will be forceful, and they will be seen to be forceful, and it will be swift and expansive, because for them it's about protecting their identity. So here's the complexity. They base their identity on this, I'm not going to say imperialism, but I guess it is, on China being at the top. But in doing so, they're missing the key question, I guess, about what is their identity. And so there will be this push-pull internally within China. People will want and demand more freedom, which is what a revolution is all about. Because within the collective identity, there's also the individual identity as well. And they've got Aquarius on the ascendant. And the moon there, as I said. So an interesting and complex chart. I think, in summary, I think we should all be very wary of what China is capable of, including its treachery kind of actions. It's underhanded. It's the things that we don't see with China that carry the greatest danger. And I would assume with those placements there, they probably have spies placed in most countries. But also for Xi Jinping, he and his cabinet need to be very aware that the injustices that they visit on their own people will ultimately form the basis of some sort of revolution in the future, because China is striving for an identity that not only fulfills the needs of the collective and of women, but also fulfills the needs of the individual. So I haven't looked at any transits. That's for a different reading altogether, but just a bit of a taster as to what China astrologically might look like. Again, this is intuitive astrology. Some other astrologers may have totally different intuition than what I have, but this is my intuitive reading of China's chart, which of course was formed on the 1st of October 1949 when China became the Republic of China. Let's draw some cards about what we might be able to see around China's relationship with the US, and then, of course, China's relationship with Australia, which is pretty close to my heart. And, of course, the US has vowed to stand with Australia should China decide with this Mars and Pluto to get a bit aggressive in the Pacific. All right, let's have a look. Okay, all right. So I'm using my Tarot of the Divine, which of course is by Yoshi. Oh, what's her name? Yoshi Tani. It's this one. And I thought it quite fitting. I think it might be a Japanese deck, but it does carry those Eastern kind of symbols there. So I thought it was fitting to use the deck today. So let's ask about what are, under Xi Jinping, what are China's current intentions? And of course, we've got the Wuhan lab. What were they studying in Wuhan? Nothing would be a surprise, because there was secret. I think it's safe to say there were secret operations there using viruses as was it a weapon? Let's have a look. So what are China's current intentions under Xi Jinping? What are China's current intentions under Xi Jinping? Of course, that collective identity resonates with them as well. So they're not going to suddenly become, or maybe they'll become a democracy, but the collective is very important to them as well within that identity. So what are their current intentions? We've got the World card here, and I think it's safe to say that it's about a march forward for them. It's about again, endings and beginnings too, the rising of the sun over their, I guess, their empire. But we've got the World card. They want to be a major player. They want to have influence on the world stage. They're challenged by the 8 of coins. And of course, this again is that they're reliant on the world to purchase their products. And of course, you've got India, which a lot of, well, some countries are looking to India to fill the gap that China may have taken in the past. So they need to be careful about foreign relationships. They need to be mindful of, again, like Putin, and it was very clever of the US President Joe Biden to couch when he was approached by CNN, which was really a superficial question. He turned around and he said, words to the effect, haven't you been listening? If you haven't, you're not doing your job. Because, diminishing Putin in the world, within the world standing, same with China, will have an impact on them economically. So their aggression, again, will come back to bite them. The 3 of Swords. Now we've got heartbreak and betrayal. I do believe the danger with China is always clear and present. And I do feel that loss of face that they feel that they've suffered either with Trump and of course with the Australian Prime Minister, they feel it's a betrayal. That is their wound. And yeah, in some ways, poking the bear, deliberately antagonizing them it's just stupid. Far better to get the world on side and, of course, use that strong diplomacy to solve the problems, which is why the G7 and the US coming out and other countries saying China needs to be tempered is absolutely the right outcome. Would that have occurred if Trump had have taken the presidency? No, he just would have said, we go it alone. And so the rise of superpowers like China and Russian aggression to a certain extent can be very dangerous if not tempered. The past, we have the 10 of Cups. This is the family, but it's also in the past. Again, they've lifted their, I think it's 2-child policy now. I think the Chinese families are allowed 3 children, and I think that was in response to some of those aspects that came forward in that chart as well. China is in terms of its population, it's evolving, and it's not, Chinese. I think Chinese people, Chinese families don't want to be living back in the 1950s or 60s. They want more, and I think Xi Jinping has read that correctly. They're not blind to what could happen if they don't show their citizens some latitude. Now, in the sky, we've got the Ace of Swords. This is truth. This can be justice, Libra, air energy, communications. Okay, so communications, they have invested in stealth drone technology. And like everything, I'm getting a draw with those ropes there. The sword could cut through in a cyber way. So cyber warfare could be on their radar. The 5 of Coins in the immediate future, there's going to be a loss of, again, this is money. Their economy may not, I don't know, I haven't looked, but again, they hurt themselves when they start to disenfranchise their trading partners. Their trading partners then look to other places in the world. They shouldn't take that for granted. It looks like there's going to be some kind of economic downturn. This is also people being left out of the cold. We could hear, for example, stories in the future emerging about, I won't say minorities, but those that are locked out. Very, very poor. Very, very poor people, and poor people suffering. There could even be some kind of famine there as well, as a result of, it could be, I've always seen earthquakes, tidal, tsunami type events, not so much tidal, but flooding in China. So yeah, there's pockets of China that are very, very impoverished. When you disenfranchise sections of your society, what happens? They rise up, one way or another. The Page of Coins in the here and now. Yeah, this is around finances. They're currently focusing on their economy and moving forward with their economy. These sanctions, I think, that Trump put on them, I do think they did start to hurt. I think they hurt America as well as China. We've got the Lovers in the environment around. So this is their trading partners, their partnerships. They should be watching that carefully, because it's not a given that we go to China and we get things made in China. So again, their interdependence on the world is very much a weakness for China if it's not managed correctly. The 5 of Cups in the hopes and fears. We've got loss here. This could be the pandemic as well, and again, the world wanting to know what happened in Wuhan, the loss of death in China itself, those that spoke out, again, the way that they can be treacherous toward their own people. They fear that. They know it, and they fear it. It's a bit like Putin cracking down on protesting and democracy. Well, it's not a democracy. It's a dictatorship in Russia. But they know when they've got a problem, and so they do things then to counteract that. The Magician, they're manifesting something. They're manipulating something. They have They have a long-term plan. They have a long-term plan. Four of Cups, clarified by the Four of Cups. This is the kind of quick, unexpected retribution against who they perceive to be their enemies, who has disappointed them. The Five of Wands, yeah, battle, competition, differing of opinions, or differing of beliefs and values. Yeah, I think we all need to watch China very carefully. But China also has problems within its own borders. Okay, so we've got the Ten of Swords. This is, some sort of downfall. Again, these are people in a river, hands sort of outstretched, looking for a hand up, and what have they got is swords there. I draw again toward these natural disasters. We've got the community here, the Four of Wands, reunification, and the Three of Wands, the pandemic. Was this intentional? I don't believe it was, but did the virus emanate or leak out of the Wuhan lab? My readings have consistently shown it may have. But here I'm seeing the loss of stability within China as people move away from, those trade deals with them as a result, whether it is as the result of the pandemic, the differing of narrative around what actually happened in Wuhan, or whether it's like Australia looking for new trading partners. China, when it rocks the boat with its trading partners, literally rocks the boat within itself. And I think stability with this Queen of Coins is financial stability in China. They have a huge population to feed, to look after, and there's pockets of real impoverished communities within China. So, do they plan on military as they look for more resources, more territory, more wealth? Do they plan invasions of any sort? They plan expansion. Well, they're already planning expansion. They have done for decades. Do they plan any kind of military action in the future against any country? Any type of military action in this bid for more resources, more wealth? Do they plan any military? The Ace of Swords was it's the potential. So potentially, yes, they do. I think it probably will have to do, this Jupiter in Capricorn, it has to do with increasing their financial leverage. But I said military, didn't I? Those that they feel that they have, they're not in step with China. This is Hong Kong. This can also be Taiwan. It is all about this wealth. The Seven of Wands. Battles, defending oneself. Where their finances, or where there's been impact, or they perceive an impact on their wealth, they will use their strength without a doubt. So I'm saying yes, they are planning some kind of military action, but I'm getting the impression it might be around cyber as well. Let's see where the relationship with China and Australia is going to end up. Show me the end game, the end of the road. Show me Australia and China's relationship in 12 months. Australia and China's relationship in 12 to 24 months. Temperance and moderation. So something's going to occur where things get back on a reasonably tempered type of footing, challenged by division, the Five of Wands, competition, obstacles. If there's moderation in Australia's attitude toward China in terms of using those diplomatic channels and not poking the bear, there's a chance the relationship can get back on track. The Three of Wands, it's going to be a bit of a climb, and it's not going to happen anytime in the immediate future. But in the longer term, there's a chance that the relationship will stabilize. In the past, we have the Knight of Cups. There has been some kind of, not an apology, but some kind of offer, peace offer to China. Maybe not done in the public arena, because again, it's this loss of face. Justice is in the sky. Justice is holding that Ace of Swords. Yeah, there's going to be needing to be a lot of diplomacy to get this back on track. And the Four of Swords in the immediate future is they're retreating away from Australia. They will continue to do that, but it is clarified by the Ace of Wands. So somehow between now and 1 year to 2 years, once they feel that that loss of face has been addressed, the relationship seems to become more moderated, more tempered in a way. Let's take a look at the US and China. Some say there's a Cold War. Let's see. The US. Show me US and China's relationship under Joe Biden. Of course, Joe Biden, President of the US, is a different character to the previous Trump president. Show me China's relationship under Joe Biden. China and US relationship under Joe Biden. Yeah, I'm just getting this spying stuff. It's very covert. The Empress and Russia. There could be an alliance between China and Russia against the US, challenged by the Queen of Coins. This is a jockeying for economic stability, economic wealth, the slice of the pie. The King of Wands. Now, of course, that is a bold leader. It's also inspiration, motivation, the courts, elected officials. In the past, there's been the loss with the Five of Cups. That's in the past. The Hanged Man is in the sky. It's that Cold War type of feeling. We have the foundation of the King of Wands. So I think that Biden and his Secretary of State, Blinken, they're going to do something that is bold to get things on a better footing. Some kind of initiative that is considered reasonably bold. We have the Knight of Swords here, which is some kind of, again, truth emerging. And the Three of Wands, clarified by the Three of Wands. So again, the US is pushing for the Wuhan investigation. They have released intelligence that says it is likely, there's a likelihood it could have leaked from Wuhan. The Three of Wands, though, this is something around, and Australia got this as well, a period of time, ships coming in, setting something up, foreign policy. But we do have the challenge here, again, the partisanship, the differing of opinion, obstacles to foreign policy I see here. Same with Australia. The Four of Swords in the hopes and fears. This is retreat. What are they doing? The Ace of Wands talks about a new start. Same kind of feeling with Australia. I think the Four of Coins. I think in the future there's going to be, and we've got victory here. So it is an economic type of scenario here, but I think that Biden and Blinken are going to propose something, some kind of initiative that brings China in some way. But in the environment, the current environment is this. China's not happy, other countries are not happy, nobody's seeing eye to eye. We've got really walking a tightrope. with China. Two of Cups, contracts being broken, the Fool card, but we do have new starts as an underlying energy, and Knight of Coins. So China's not stupid. They're not going to cut off their nose to spite their face with their major trading partners, because their future, their present and future, relies on foreign powers or other countries buying getting things made in China, buying what they've got to offer, which is really the labour of their people. So again, China walks a tightrope internally and externally. So we'll see what's going to occur as we move forward. I think any kind of action by China we won't see it. It's going to be stealth. It's going to be underhanded, because that's the tactics that they use. So we'll see. I don't see war breaking out. I see more like a Cold War continuing, and a lot of spying on the part of China. All right, I don't say that with jest, but it's just the reality. It's in their chart. All right, then. Thanks for tuning in. That's our deep dive in relation to China. Okay.